when you're not making money, there are no problems. When do the problems start? When you start making money. You remember civilizations by what they built.
Right.
Not by what they destroyed. The Egyptian civilization, the Mesopotamian civilization, the Indus Valley civilization. It's all about creativity. It's important that you know the basics, because if you don't, people will take you for a ride. So our man has made an invoice. 6 o'clock in the evening, he comes to know 3 of those items are not going to go. So he makes a new invoice. And very brilliantly, the old invoice is nicely kept in a drawer. Suddenly some 6-7 people from Central Excise land up. This guy knew exactly where to go. He went in, opened the drawer, pulled out. There was not one invoice. There were 6 invoices like that. And the Central Excise Department slapped me with a penalty of 98 lakhs. So anyway, you learn with this. It makes you tougher, it makes you stronger. So it's like trial by fire. That's how you learn. It is a hit or miss. You might get somebody really good, or you might get somebody whose integrity is in question.
For a designer, when does the money start coming in, and what do they need to do to hang in there and say that yes, someday it will come?
Well, we hung in there. That was the only way. I'll tell you, in Tesseract when we started, there were days we didn't even have that time coffee was 50 paisa. We didn't even have 50 paisa to have a cup of coffee. It was as tough as that. But you don't give up. You can never give up. It takes 10 years for anybody to be good at anything, whatever your field is. It needs that many hours of work.
2 hardworking people doing the same thing doesn't mean at the 10th year both of them are going to do equally well. And one fine day दोनों का starburst होएगा bank balance में. नहीं होएगा. A miss is a mistake. And you pay for it.
You pay for it.
Let's say today when a creative person gets into entrepreneurship, what are the things that you would say that भाई ये सब साथ में सीख ले, मैंने बहुत मेहनत करके सीखा है and I've picked it up as I've gone. What are the things that you would recommend to shorten their journey of struggle?
Let's put it this way. Imagine.
So welcome to another episode of Creative Spark Plug. Creative Spark Plug is a podcast where we talk to creative professionals about their journey of life, their learnings, their work, their struggles, and how they do and think differently to create outstanding products. The show is for young professionals from any creative field to help them understand what it takes to create a successful career out of design and other creative fields. Today we are talking to Mr. Sandeep Mukherjee. He's a design entrepreneur, a furniture designer. He's worked with interiors and sustainable furniture and construction techniques.
I know Sandy for a while. So what I'm going to do with Sandy is, there's a part of Sandy's life that the world knows. And he's also put it out there on YouTube and all of that. So I'm going to quickly summarize that for anybody who's encountering him incidentally for the first time. पहला 15 साल 79 में आप पहुंच गए NID.
Yeah.
84, 85 में यहाँ पहुंच गया. Because the beer was cheap and the weather was good.
Absolutely. You got it absolutely right. And it was a peaceful city compared to Delhi.
Totally. And Mr. John Matthew was like, हाँ आजा. And so 4 of you guys created Tesseract Design after that?
No. John was
No, John wasn't there.
No, John wasn't.
So 4 of after John.
Yeah. So,
Jacob, you,
so
Sundar,
we started in 85, Sundar and me. And in fact, I had floated the idea of setting something up because Sundar was working with Wipro at that time.
Right.
Wipro was involved with product design. So I told Sundar, listen, I'm going to set this up. What about you? He said, yeah, I will be leaving Wipro soon and then we'll get started on this. And we decided the name to be Tesseract. It's the cube in the 4th dimension. Yeah. That's what it means. Then we informed our friends and then Jacob from there, me too. And then Anand from there, me too. And then those guys came in a year later and they all became a part of it. So we were 4 of us. So basically John's brother, Jacob.
Yeah. So for the next 10 years, lots of action happened. And in some sense, milestone things happened. Yes. You guys took on the Mixie to Pantaloon banaya, retail banaya, jo bhi product there, Royal Enfield trial, something. And lots of action happened. These are like good incubation time for the city itself. I think there is where the nucleus of the designers that came to Bangalore and started off. If today you identify Bangalore as a place where creatives go to or look forward to, it kind of started there with all you guys coming together and doing everything. And it's a great story as well from the point of view that you didn't have much to work with except for yourselves.
Very much. Absolutely.
Right. And came down to a new city and you guys made things happen and kind of took whatever came by your way and saw what you could do with it. So next 10 years is action-packed. We know Pantaloon, we know all of these stories that are out in the air. 94, something exciting happened. Right? And why I say 94 exciting happened is because the usual belief is that 4 people with synergy, 5 people with synergy, looking in the same direction is a lot more energy together and similar ideologies. I mean, everything moving together, and you guys are having so much fun. There's impact. There's value being created in multiple industries at the same time. 94, Sandeep Mukherjee feels the need to move on his own. Right? This is at Ecospace. Ecospace is also an exciting thing because थोड़ा सा guts चाहिए उसमें कि करके देखते हैं. It was like an MVP to say that, hey, does the industry or do people that we cater to, are they looking for good furniture design? And you guys prototyped that. So indifferent of what happened, that MVP was there. There was a data point which said that chahiye. And we are doing some good work because there's acceptability. Whether you're able to scale it, get in money and all of that is a different story.
Thing, yeah.
But there is proof in the pudding. That's what happened. And then Sandeep Mukherjee decides to move on all by himself. Now, this is a point of enquiry for us because typical people want to come together and do something happen. Or yahan pe there is already 10 years of fun and value. What led you to say that you need to be on your own? And I don't believe it's always a conflict. I'm just curious about what could have.
It's a bit of both.
You were already, Tesseract was something that you started. It's generally what happens is when people are working with somebody else, after 5, 6 years, 7 years, the need to do something else and move on in life. But you had already running a successful design firm which you started, and you had people joining you and it grew to a certain scale. What drove you to the next step?
Quite a few things.
Right. We're curious.
For both of you. See, we started Tesseract. I mean, I always say we because so many of us were involved, irrespective of the fact that putting the point out there, let's do something like this was mine. It was pretty difficult to get work at that time. So nobody knew what the hell was design. First of all, you went and said, I can do this for you. They'll say, oh, you do interior decoration. No, sir, it's not interior decoration. So the first project I remember we did with, Maini, this company called Maini.
Yeah.
M-A-I-N-I. They're pretty big. They started that first electric car. I mean, interesting people.
Reva.
Yeah. So they had an office at Devata Plaza on the 7th floor, if I'm not mistaken, and they wanted to get their office furniture and everything done. So I said, I'll do it. And you know how much was the fees? $8,000. 8,000 rupees. That was my fees. But of course, we came from a background where we said we would put our heart and soul into everything. Whatever you do stands for who you are. So whether you make money or you don't make money, you don't compromise on what you do. So we did a very nice office for them. They were happy. That was the starting point. Then we did some work for the NID over here. It's not the way it is today. It was a factory shed, hot as hell. And Helena, who was in charge of the place at that time, was heading it. So she wanted some trestle tables. She says, can you guys do it for us? I said, yeah. So I designed that, and me and Anand sat in the factory and made it on the machines. We made jigs, everything, made it. Just make sure that it comes out neatly. I mean, details, if I start explaining details, it gets very technical, but it came out very well. She was happy. Then we slowly started growing like that. And then we started getting a lot of design projects. John already was here a year before that. And he had set up a manufacturing facility called Studio Line. So we used to get things made over there. So now we started with Tesseract. I mean, as you all know, when you're not making money, there are no problems. When do the problems start? When you start making money. Okay? And then real thinking processes come out. So I really never believed that whatever you do, everybody should be equal, because that's unfair. That's a very socialist, communist way of thinking. Initially, since we're not making money, we always said, okay, each of us will get the same amount of money from whatever projects come, which was fine with me. I'm just telling you one angle of this whole thing. Then we started with retail. Victoria, Terminus, Vibes, Levi's, Lee, all that. Pantaloon was after I left. Or just when I was leaving, that was taking shape. We did a lot of work for other kinds of clients, not retail. And the interesting thing was, I don't have many of those visuals with me. It is there somewhere in the archives of, I think, Idiom. I have to get them. If you see the way we approached retail at that time and what everybody else was doing, there was a huge difference. Today, retail follows that principle. Okay, we designed the whole place. We broke it up into elements. And instead of sitting with 200 carpenters outside doing dark, and fitting it up, we got everything made in different places where expertise was available. Brought it to site and installed it. So it was like this. And quality and fit of finish was way, way better. So the experience was different. So I loved working with space. I've always loved working with space. And furniture always is interacting with space. So you can't design an element of furniture in isolation. It's going to be in a space. What kind of space is it going to be? How is it going to talk about itself? How is that piece of furniture going to talk to other elements in the space? Becomes very important. So whatever we designed was meant to give a level of excitement to somebody who came into that retail space, and it did. So more and more work started coming like that, and that's how we grew. Then, of course, we did some work for Enfield. Enfield had just tied up with this company called Zundap, where they wanted to bring in more powerful bikes, and they came and the designs were very awful. It was an Eastern European country. So they said, can you redesign? And that's how we got involved with designing the motorcycles.
Who was doing the burnouts?
So, burnouts, I mean,
I just wanted to know if you took a spin on them anytime.
Of course. I was always a motorcycle
I'm aware of that.
aficionado. I had, my first bike was, of course, the Hero Honda. My second bike was a 650cc CB 4-cylinder. So I've done a lot of bike touring. I'm talking about 1992 and around that time. There were hardly any bikes in Bangalore, big ones.
And roads.
And roads were better, actually, because there was hardly any traffic. So you could go from here to Mysore. There's not too much. Of course, it was a narrow road, but not much traffic.
Traffic was less.
So it was possible to leave at 4 in the morning and reach Mysore without any major incidents, unless you were completely drunk. And even being drunk, I know, I will not take names. One of us was completely drunk and left for Mysore at 4 in the morning on his bike. And he reached. He had finished a whole bottle of Codes.
Codes, right.
Anyway, so it went on like this. And when it started growing, a lot of the projects were brought in by me as well. So I had proposed that instead of everybody getting the same, you get the same. Everybody has to survive and it's fair. But on each project that everyone brings in, suppose you bring in a project, a small percentage is yours, but you execute the project. You have to make sure it goes up well, and client will not come to me if it is a project that you brought in, because the relationship is with you. So then I found that, I would be in office very early. I like to get to work early because my mind works better in the morning. Some of the partners would not come in at that time, would come in at 12 o'clock in the afternoon, leave at 5 in the evening. And it started getting on my nerves. So I'm being very frank and open here. And when you find that you have so much more scope to do things and you are kind of feeling stifled, you can't continue. It doesn't matter whether I started. My own personal freedom of expression, my personal ability to earn was being hampered. So that's why I left. I didn't want to create too many issues because I said, okay, if these guys can continue, let them. We started something, let's not kill it. I could have actually been vindictive and said, no, close it, because it was a partnership. That was not my intention. Quercuspace was one kind of a last-ditch effort to say, furniture is my first love. Why don't we do this? Take it out into the market, because the kind of stuff that you get in the market is absolutely pathetic. So why don't we give people a new way of looking at things when you talk about furniture? People like nice furniture, and this is 1994 when there was, how many furniture brands were there? Hardly. Salih Ahmed was always there for renting. They had a great concept going. So we put in a lot of effort. We designed a whole line of furniture. Studio Line made it. Some things got made outside. And Brigade Towers at the end of Brigade Road, the ground floor was empty that time.
Right.
So we said, we'll do the exhibition there.
Right.
We said, how do we get people there? One, of course, we put newspaper ads. The other was, we organized to have a grand opening. Taj West End.
Right.
Beautiful property.
Yeah.
So there's a big hall, typical like the ballroom kind of hall with a central partition which you could close. So we called a lot of people. We called all the top architects because, I knew everybody at a personal level. Called them, they came, we called some of our clients, and we had closed the center partition. Meanwhile, all the furniture that we had designed was set up over there so that people don't know what they have come for. You just said, come for something interesting that we want to show you. And then this side, we called in a few top architects to talk. Edgar de Mello was there, and quite a few of them. They spoke, I spoke. And then we said, the bar is open, and if you turn around, the exhibition is open as well. It was very interesting. So people went, they looked at the furniture, looked at prices. How can you make it at this kind of price? This is fantastic. So we got the feedback that we needed. We told everybody, tomorrow the exhibition's on at Brigade Towers. We had 3 days for the exhibition. They gave us the space for 3 days. 3 days, we did 11 lakhs of turnover. At that time, that was a lot of money. More than money, yes, this is a fantastic potential. It was like disrupting the market. But today we say we must disrupt, and you're a startup. That was a startup. That was disrupting. Accepting that venture funding was not even anywhere near to the shores of this country. So, and we were not looking for funding like that. The only way to get funding those days was to go to a bank who will make you dance around for 6 months and then say, no, we can't fund you. Banks are still doing that. Banks haven't changed. So, Studioline was supposed to make. Now, clients have ordered, we have told them 15 days based on what we were told by Studioline. So, some furniture we had already made some stocks. Thankfully, we were able to deliver on time. Some stuff was just not getting made. For some stuff was not made for 6 months. And I had no control on it. Clients would come, customers who've paid money here. And that's absolutely unfair. Somebody's paid money by trusting you, and you have to deliver, and you don't deliver for 6 months. Your integrity and everything is in question. So we had a big problem with that. Then I said, okay, this is not going to work. If we are going to do furniture, and if you want to do furniture the way we want, great quality, good design, we have to make it ourselves. I said, enough, I'm out. That's how the whole thing happened. So I moved out. I started doing a few other projects. I had clients who trusted me. So I moved out. I took a few of the clients, rest were with them. And for the next 3 to 4 years, basically, we had to survive. I didn't want to take up a job anywhere, okay? Because I never decided to take a job ever, right from day one. For the first 5 months when I came here, I worked with John because he needed some help. And I said, okay, right now I don't have the funds to start off from scratch. So I'll work with you. Not for the funds, just to survive.
Yeah.
Which was fun. We worked on that Aditi school at that time. He was doing a lot of work with Aditi. It was good fun. And of course, every evening there was beer or Code's rum. So, and we would have interesting discussions in John's house, John's old house. And so, in a way, you can say John was responsible for a few of us coming in here. And I considered him my friend. We played music together. So, it's always a different relationship. So then I started what was called Kiri Design, which was going to do graphic, Kiri.
Right.
So which is doing graphic design, visual communication, as well as, working on retail and things like that. So we did a few projects for the next 4 years. And then 1999 is when I started Quetzel. I set up the company. I went to the bank and I said, I have this, what I want to do. And that time it was UTI Bank. Today it's Axis. That time UTI Bank had just started and they were very keen to get into this, start funding. And I don't know how, but they funded us some money. So we started setting up the factory. That is the factory you had come to. And that's how Quetzel started. And just after that, we got a massive project in Electronic City because that time just all the IT companies were coming up. Electronic City was getting full up. Whitefield was getting full up. All of these companies needed furniture. And you can't make furniture for them by having carpenters sitting at your site and making it. And you'll never get the quality. Right. We had all the machines. So we got this massive project. It was a 23-acre campus called Velankani Information Systems, which is in Electronic City.
Right,
and the guy who set it up just trusted me and we started working. We did a lot of interesting stuff. And what we did in the year 2000 is still there, working well. And it's 25 years down the road. We still do a lot of work with them. He's one of our very close clients. That's how Quetzel started.
When you say ours, you're talking about Quetzel right now.
Quetzel.
Perfect. Continue.
Quetzel. But after Quetzel, now also he's a client, because ultimately it's identity is built by people behind the identity. So like if it was Quetzel, you would like to know who's Quetzel. I was involved in that. So when I moved from there and I set up Quercus, client will also say, no, I would work with you because you understand each other. You build relationships.
Right.
Okay. India doesn't function so much on a very professional setup where you sign an agreement and you stick to it like the way the Germans do, but it is all on relationship. Even going to the bank and getting funds is based on relationship. You have a good relationship with the manager, he'll give you the money.
Right.
Even you have the best case scenario, they will not give you the money. That's how it works. Yeah, so that's the thing of Tesseract, where I put in 10 years of my life. And then after that, moved out. Kiri was another 4 years. Kiri still continues. Yamuna is handling all the visual communication projects in Kiri. Then Quetzel.
Couple of things. And I'm getting into this space because I don't think a creative's life is just work-centric. नहीं होता है. 4 चीजें अलग से होती है. Especially when you've come out of college and you're starry-eyed and you want to make something happen. The josh is different.
Very much.
I mean, you want to change. You want to give to the world because you've come up with that drive kind of a thing. Simultaneously, multiple things are happening in your life at that point of time.
Yeah.
You're creating these collaboratives. You're making bridges, breaking bridges. There's personal life happening. You're also trying to down a Codes and, make it a one-stop to Mysore, middle of the night. All of these things are happening.
I didn't do that. But
I'm not mentioning any names. But,
okay.
Yeah, but this is what is happening at that point of time. I mean,
right.
In some sense, this pattern is similar. It's also a very testing time. It tests your mettle, it tests your value systems. Alignments kind of come together and break apart because these things are being settling in and all of that. People go the so-called quote-unquote family way in this direction. I mean, at this point of time, that is also simultaneous step. And that's an influential part. That's either coming together, contributing or not contributing, distracting, all of that. I am talking with you from the point of view that we are kind of doing a retrospective exercise of inquiring into how your life has been, which doesn't seem like a straight line. There was music.
Yep.
You were a part of that. There was your biking. You were a part of that. And there were things that you were doing at that point of time. There was photography.
Yep.
You were a part of that. There were collaborations which were coming together. So there's a lot happening in Sandeep Mukherjee's life throughout. So when I meet an old school photographer in Bandipur or Nilgiris, he knows Sandeep Mukherjee. As a photographer, furniture bhi banata hai, but as a photographer.
Yeah, but because he's seen that side of you.
He's seen that side of you, right?
Right.
Now, okay, we are inquiring into the creative person, Sandy, but these are all the colors that he has. Where were all of these things at that point of time? You had an inquiry about this.
I have a very simple question to ask. Actually, you've been in the creative field for about, 40 plus years? And you started a design studio, then moved to manufacturing, then that's moved to another stage. So what, according to you, are the different stages of a creative person or a designer? But before we get there, I'm very intrigued to understand or know from you as to what got you to NID and into design itself, because was it an influence from the parent side or was it a choice that you made? How did you get into that?
Pre-79.
Yes.
मतलब मैं पैदा हुआ था उस समय.
मेरा तो ख्याल भी नहीं किया था भगवान ने.
That's what's interesting, but something binds all of us together, and that's the creative aspect, and that bond is very strong. So I'm talking about that once again. You remember civilizations by what they built,
right?
Not by what they destroyed. What they destroyed is a negative thing.
Yeah.
Okay, but what they built is why you remember the Aztecs, the Incas, the Egyptian civilization, the Mesopotamian civilization, the Indus Valley civilization. It's all about creativity. It's the creative fraternity that's always at unrest. You can't settle down and say, I am fine now. You can't become a Seth, selling, just trading and then happy that you finish. Because there's always that itch which you can't block, and that is only and largely with the creative fraternity. So
Khujli.
that runs in everybody's blood, whether the guy is 25 years old today and I am whatever I am. But that bond is always there. You respect everybody. And you like to know, Acha, what is this guy doing? Something interesting. Let me see what they're doing. See if you can add value to it or suggest something, whatever. Pre-NID. In school, I was terrible at studies, okay? I hated the way teaching was done, like with maar padta tha. Okay? And you hated it. Why is the bugger beating me? He teaches me in such a horrible way, I don't even want to sit in his class. But education was that at that time. It was, you learn by rote. And my mind never wanted to learn by rote. I wanted to discover. My geography teacher was fantastic. And he used to teach in an interesting way. So my favorite subject was geography. Ask me anything on geography, I would be the number one in the class. And in the end, geography was a 50-mark subject and I got 49. So that was it. Whereas the Hindi teacher, I got 33 out of 100. Just about passed. It was the way it was taught. So I hated school. I was good in sports. I was one of the top athletes in school, okay? 100 meters, 4x100 meter relay, long jump. Long jump, I was the unbeaten champion in school. Nobody could beat my record. My excitement was theatre. So all the other stuff than studies. And we had we used to have that class of whether you do drawing or whether you do carpentry. I took carpentry. And
which city did you grow up?
Delhi.
Delhi, okay. Yeah. Please continue.
So the guy who used to handle the carpentry teaching was one Paji, Lal Singh. My favorite teacher. I used to love him. And he used to say, Abhi, aise kar. So basics of carpentry, I used to spend a lot of time there whenever I could. Drawing class, I was pretty good at it. Of course, I became better at NID, but whatever it is. So when school finished, and when I finished school and got out, that time it was not +2. It was the last batch of what is called higher secondary. So you had till 8, you are all common. 9th, 10th, 11th, you specialize in whichever area, science, commerce, or liberal arts. I didn't want to do liberal arts. Everybody that time, either you get science or you are a useless fellow.
Yeah.
I didn't get science. So what to do? I didn't want to do arts. Okay, I'll take commerce. I took commerce. And the commerce section was full of all the rowdies from school. But rowdies as in good sportsmen, okay, people who could fight.
They were differently abled.
They were different. I was part of that.
Yeah.
So I took commerce, 3 years of commerce. But when I finished school, still, I got only 56% here. So after that, where do you go to college? No college would take you. 56%, ja. Sala, 56% leke aaya. People are scoring 98%. Some even scored 105 out of 100. So then I was looking for a place because what to do now? What do I do? There was no World Wide Web, there was no internet, there was no computers. Okay. So the only information you got was through newspapers or magazines or whatever else. And there was no information anywhere about NID. So good friend, his father was a professor in one college and he said, Tu aja, I will get you admission. So I landed up at Zakir Hussain College. Zakir Hussain College was that time next to Ajmeri Gate.
Right.
Delhi. You got out of college, you turn left, it was GB Road. You got out from the back gate of the college, it was a railway station. So if you wanted to GB Road, you could go. If you wanted to escape and run off to some other city, just cross over and go to the station and get out. And the most interesting part, it was the oldest college building in India, built in 1757.
Wow.
Center of the college, there was a mosque.
No.
Okay, so, and that whole area, if you wanted to buy drugs, you could just walk up to Jama Masjid. You could get anything you wanted. So that was very strategically located college. I was studying there. It was a fairly violent place. So.
And what were you studying?
BCom.
Okay.
BCom honors. And another friend of mine, 2 of us joined. Then a third guy also joined. 3 of us from the same school we joined. So I was doing BCom honors and the only subject that was interesting and the professor was interesting was mercantile law. So I got excited. I said, okay, maybe I will study law. But again, if you want to study law, you have to really get high scores. accounting was one of the most boring subjects. Not of interest to me. I just got in there because, after school, you can't just sit idly. You have to do something. So that is happening. And the college from there, CP was very close. Ajmeri Gate to CP, you just go down Minto Bridge and you are in Connaught Place. So I used to go there, and there was the USIS, United States Information Service, and they had this magazine called Span magazine.
I remember Span.
You remember Span?
Yeah.
Okay. So during the course, what happens is you generally gravitate towards people that you like. So there were some interesting characters. There was a whole bunch of guys from Mauritius, a lot of guys from Fiji, a lot of guys from different countries in Africa, Nigeria, Kenya, everything. And that way it was a very interesting place. And lots of musicians. There's this guy called Jack Silvio Ramalingam from Mauritius, fantastic guitarist. So we finished class, go sit, and the hostel was there. So we used to sit with him, smoke and listen to nice music, play some music together. So what happened is I got to meet all of these.
Quickly, one data point. Smoke alternative tobacco, right?
Yeah.
Please continue.
I mean, we were all like that.
You
And
need to ask that.
Clarify, get your details in. God is in the details.
And in the
Good
process,
is
we
also
met
in
a
the
lot of
details.
people, We met a lot of people in that. So there was a guy called Ashim Roy, Bengali.
Why is that name familiar?
Yeah, so Ashim Roy was a good friend. He used to also play, and we used to hang around together. Ashim Roy used to tell me, you know what, you should not be here. There's a place in Ahmedabad, it's called NID. I didn't pay much attention that time. There are no exams, man. You just do interesting work. You have to show what you've done, and, if you do well, you move on. I used to keep talking about NID because he was in NID. He had joined NID. He started doing political programs over there, started a union. He was booted out.
Right.
So he came to Delhi and he started, what was he doing in Delhi? Maths honors in that college.
Maths honors.
Maths honors. So this is just a background. And then I went and I was looking through Span magazine, flipping through it. Suddenly it said the National Institute of Design. One 3-4 page article with beautiful pictures, beautiful campus. And they said, this is what they do. I said, shit, this is what I have to do. And there was an address at the end. So I took it down. No smartphones. So pen and paper. I wrote a letter. No email. You write a letter, post it, it went. And I got a reply. So it came from a guy called Manav Bose. He was the academic administrator. He said, this year we are closed with admissions. Apply next year. I said, okay. He says, you look at the newspapers, you will see the ad for an NID. So newspaper, you might miss the ad. Yeah, then what do you do? So anyway, I waited patiently. Next year, I saw the ad. I applied. Then they sent me one thick form, which you have to fill. And if you get past that, you are called for interviews and group discussions and all that kind of stuff. So I filled the form, sent it. They called me. So I was in Delhi. So they said, you come to SPA. SPA was the center for the thing. So I went. First day was all kinds of aptitude tests. You have to sit there. There were like so many people sitting. I was also one of them. Finished the aptitude test. Gave it. They said, next day you'll be called for interview. If your name is up on that list, you are going to be selected for interview. This is what I want to do. Going there, and I looked at the list. I said my name was not there. So I said, shit. But I had gone with a friend. So, he said, hey, let me see. Because I was like excited.
Yeah.
I was 19. So he went, looked, I said, your name is there, man. I said, where? Showed me. Okay. I'm in group 2. So waited. Then we had a group discussion, further shortlisted and called for interview the next day. So when I left after the group discussion, I already got a note saying you have to come for interview the next day. I said, okay. Went and did the interview. There were so many people sitting and interviewing you like, pant khol raha tha. But it was a nice interview. In the sense, I never felt scared or anything like that. Because by that time, I was feeling reasonably confident. Interview dekhe wapis aa gaya. Then they said that in a week to 10 days, you will get a telegram if you are selected, or you will get a letter. If you're not selected, we'll give you a rejection letter.
You did NID, you ran a successful design studio, and then went into manufacturing. And there is a video which talks about your journey through all of this, which we'll probably even put the link along on the web, on the podcast. But what we want to understand from you is the various stages of life for a designer, and especially for a design entrepreneur. In fact, it's interesting that you call yourself a design entrepreneur, because over the several episodes that we have done, we call it business of creativity, which is similar to design entrepreneur. And at the end of it, we are all doing business. Whether it is a design course or an architect or a photographer or whatever, when they start on their own, it's an entrepreneurship that they're doing. So you call yourself a design entrepreneur. So what are the stages of, because you were mentioned about a certain phase not having money, which we all go through initially. So when does the money start coming in? And when the money starts coming in, how does it become, or when does it become wealth? And what does one need to do to transition through all of these stages?
Well, I can't answer for everybody because I think everybody's journey is different. And yes, design schools, architecture schools do not teach you about entrepreneurship. They teach you about design or architecture or whatever that you got into doing. Entrepreneurship is a whole different animal. Yes, I personally never wanted to work for someone. I said, I'll do my own. Somehow that self-belief was there. But the moment you choose entrepreneurship as your path, you are embarking on a very, very difficult journey. Okay, unless you come from a privileged family background where, okay, your father says, here's some starting capital, now you go and do what you want. But typically, when you are coming from a privileged family background, which would necessarily be a business background, you'll end up getting into the same business that your family is in, because that path is already laid out. You might go out a little, but you'll end up coming there because you will discover that this is not an easy path. That however much you don't want to work, say, with your father, you'll end up finally landing up there, because when you go out, you realize that it's not so easy. Okay, nothing is easy. Okay, building an organization also is not easy. There are so many challenges you will face. The biggest challenge being people. Everything else can be done. People, my God, the most difficult thing. You're dealing with insecurities, you're dealing with egos, you're dealing with blind spots, you're dealing with other creative people, thinking process different. And at the same time, when you're working with other creative people, you need to give some leeway, saying that here, why don't you try, think something and come back. At our time, we used to do a lot of that. But I'm actually today, the information age, today at a click, you can go to Mother Google and get a whole lot of information, or you go to Pinterest and say, hey, I like this idea, I'm going to replicate this. We didn't have any of that. I think people like us created Pinterest with ideas, which are now out there. So you believed and you relied on your own abilities. I was confident of being able to design. I was confident of being able to get anything made. But I had to learn how to handle people. I'm a people person in many ways. I like working with others. And so that was not so difficult for me. I'll come to the manufacturing stage, which is a whole different story. Finances was, though I had done BCom and it helped me a little bit, finances was not my core competence. And then you have to depend on someone else. And you don't know whether that someone else has done a great job or not, going through the labyrinth of taxation systems, all kinds of things. And if you do one thing wrong, the government is going to be on your head. They don't care what you're doing. Startup or no startup, contribution or no contribution, make in India or no make in India. They don't care. They want you to make sure that you are not doing something that goes against the government system. So that was a big learning. Okay. So learning how to deal with finances, how to make sure that you run your organization without incurring losses and things like that. But still, you'll always have some of those wonderful clients who don't pay you. Okay, that's another thing. Learning how to prepare a proper ironclad agreement. You were never taught that in school, in design school, or for that matter, in architecture school. We had a 5-day program on entrepreneurship. In 5 days, can you learn anything? We can learn nothing. So, not information age, not taken through any of these things, not being told, listen, man, you're stepping on thin ice. Remember, you're stepping on thin ice. If it breaks, you fall down. You have to learn how to swim. And you have to learn how to get out quick. Otherwise, you'll die from hypothermia. So, there are lots of analogies like this that we can look at. So Tesseract, from that point of view, was a little easier because we were largely into, design consulting, not so much into making, because when you're making is when you can go wrong. You do your costing wrong. There are so many hidden costs that you don't think about. And in the end, that comes and bites you, because then you have to pay for it. Whether the client you told the client, I need that, or you built it in your cost, whether you've done it or not, you have to pay the guy who's come to work. You cannot tell him no. So in the end, you end up making no money. So that's how you learn. But the good thing is, as creative people, when you are doing something different, maybe 10 years ahead of anybody else at that time, there is a premium people are willing to pay. So you plan accordingly that, yes, I will be charging this much, but what you get, you will not get from anyone else. And I've had clients who've worked with us, then said, no, this is too expensive. They've gone and they've come back. Not the same year. May have come back 3-4 years later, but they've come back. Because they've not got what we gave, both in terms of service and in terms of quality and design. Everything. So focus, I would say what we need to really do is focus on our core competence and our strengths, make it stronger. And whatever else that we were not good at, like say finance, or if you're not good at people management, or you're not good at project management, then that is where you need to beef up and learn. It's important that you know the basics, because if you don't, people will take you for a ride. So if you don't understand what is credit and what is debit, your accountant will take you for a ride, because we don't have that discipline in our country. And to some extent, I won't say everybody doesn't have integrity. A lot of people don't. I've lost money that way. I've lost money for no fault of mine, because of stupidity of people who were supposed to do something and didn't do it. So you have to be very careful. Like in Quetzel, I'll give you a simple example. You're manufacturing. It's for a project. It has to go out. It has to reach site, so it has to be installed. So maybe 26 items, individual SKUs, where to go. So the guy who's dispatching it has been told 26 items will go. These are these items. Please prepare the invoice. And this was at the time of sales tax, central excise, hundreds of those things where, you just pay through your nose for everything. Okay? So our man has made an invoice. Honestly, with the VAT, with the central excise, everything, the total cost is this. 6 o'clock in the evening, he comes to know 3 of those items are not going to go. Because they are not ready. They'll only go tomorrow. Now you can't send this same invoice without the 3 items. So he makes a new invoice. That invoice number was 1123. So he makes another invoice 1123, removing those 3 items, preparing the invoice. And very brilliantly, the old invoice, which was supposed to be destroyed because that was not correct, is nicely kept in a drawer. Okay, this material is gone. That nicely kept invoice in the drawer should be destroyed, because you can't use the same invoice number for 2 invoices. That is not correct. One day I'm sitting in office, suddenly some 6-7 people from central excise land up
and find this.
You guys are cheating. You're committing fraud. I was livid. I said, if you utter that word again, I'll throw you out of my office. I am not guilty till I'm proven guilty. What is your problem? Why have you come here and calling this a fraud? So his senior said, hey, don't tell him. This guy knew exactly where to go. He went in, opened the drawer, pulled out. There was not one invoice. There were 6 invoices like that. Because this idiot dispatch guy has not destroyed those invoices. He pulls out those invoices and says, and then shows us the actual invoice. He says, you are doing 2 invoices with the same number, so that you are cheating us. How to explain to him what the problem was?
So how did he know that?
Because there's somebody from inside has informed. And that is typically how it happens. This guy would have informed, he would have got some money for having informed, and it can be anybody in your organization. So my advice would be, hold your accounts very close to yourself. And there is another area where you can lose big money. It's in procurement. So now anything I procure, I do the finding, where to get it. I negotiate. I have a close relationship with the supplier so that nobody can go in and say, hey, listen, give me 10%. So we lost a lot of money that time because it was growing. I was focusing on getting business. And these guys were busy making money. We threw those guys out. And the Central Excise Department slapped me with a penalty of 98 lakhs. As if we are sitting on pots of money. And he says 98 lakhs, I'll pay it. So I had to find my way through and figure out how to sort it. I sorted it out. But in the end, we had to pay.
How much you
Not
end up paying?
98. I paid 10. We were not supposed to pay even 10
even
because
that-
it was not
back
a...
then 10 is a huge amount.
Yeah,
98 is like
Yeah.
massive.
नहीं मैं तो शटर डाउन कर दो यार मैं तो 1 करोड़ की बात कर रहे हो आप
Yeah.
So anyway, you learn with this. It makes you tougher. It makes you stronger. So it's like trial by fire. That's how you learn. Okay. Today you can outsource your accounts where they will give you detailed, notes on what they've done and how they've done. It was not possible then. We didn't have people to do that. There was no such service available. And even if a service was available, which we took 2-3 years after that, inefficient. It was on a retainership, so you had to pay so much, but the service was not coming properly. So I had to fire them also. So that's how it was. And I would say, like I again said, focus on your core competence. Don't try to do too many things that you are not strong on. Bring in the right people. But bringing the right people is always a question. It is a hit or miss. You might get somebody really good, or you might get somebody whose integrity is in question. And then you are in trouble.
So when does the money start coming in? Because as an architect myself, we have gone through that. When we started, we were getting $5,000 as a salary per month, and everybody else is getting jobs for 25,000, 40,000, and we know that we had to go through a rigorous thing of 10 years through the stages, starting from 5,000, not starting from 50, 60,000. So after 5-10 years, we reach a 60, and when somebody else has already reached a much higher number. For a designer, when does the money start coming in, and what do they need to do to hang in there and say that yes, someday it will come?
True. Well, we hung in there. That was the only way. I'll tell you, in Tesseract when we started, there were days we didn't even have that time coffee was 50 paisa. We didn't even have 50 paisa to have a cup of coffee. It was as tough as that. But you don't give up. You can never give up. You have to stay there, fight it, and continue. And all the time, remember, just focus on yourself, get better and better and better. At some point, people will start sitting up and taking notice. So, look at Tesseract. I mean, there were no design firms those days. There was one or two isolated. There was one in Pune, there was one in Delhi. But we were, in the South, we were the only people. Okay? Who knew anything about Tesseract? But we stuck to it. We worked together. We did things differently. And people started sitting up and taking notice. Today, people talk about Tesseract. It's like Vincent van Gogh. He never made money. But today, you see where he is. But we shouldn't be in that situation. You need to make money while you're alive so you can enjoy. So, focus on yourself here. Focus on yourself. Get stronger at what you are doing. Whatever you're doing, let's say this way, furniture. Let's talk about furniture. There are 1 million people doing furniture. How are you different? To be different, you don't try to be different just to be different. You think differently to solve the same problem. Ultimately, you are there because there is a client. If there is no client, you are not there. You don't exist. Okay? Somebody has to pay you for your services. It's like in the olden days, the king would patronize some artists or sculptors and say, hey, I want you to do it. I'll take care of your cost. But they only got there because they were great. They were good. Otherwise, nobody will support you. So become the best in what you're doing. And that's the only way. And to become the best is not a 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, or 3 years time. I don't know any of you have read that book called The Tipping Point.
Yeah, I have.
Yeah.
I keep on recommending it as well.
It takes 10 years for anybody to be good at anything, whatever your field is. It needs that many hours of work. You're practicing, if you want to be one of the best saxophone players, you're practicing 8 to 10 hours a day, every day for 10 years.
Mm.
And then suddenly one fine day, you've crossed that tipping point. And then you are known. That's when you start making money. Because, like I told you, my first design fee that I charged for doing a whole office was 8,000 rupees. Today I can charge any amount I ask. And if they're not going to pay it, I won't do the job. Because it's not that I don't have other options. We have. But you charge not just because you think you are, pumped up with ego. You charge because you know what you're going to do. Nobody else will be able to do. And people don't know that in the beginning. But once you finish the job, they realize. And they see value in what you've done. You make money when you are in that situation, after the tipping point is over.
So based on what you're saying, the key is to be focused and hang in towards the vision that we have.
Absolutely.
And not get distracted with other things. Because if we want to be a good designer, we have to go through that. Be it in today's time or any time. Now we have a lot of other ways of making money, but being good is not a shortcut.
No.
If you want to be a legend in the design fraternity, you have to go through that rigor of those many years and reach the tipping point.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Completely.
It'll sound like a counter question, but I will go for it. I'll tell you where I'm coming from. I'm coming from the fact that two hardworking people doing the same thing doesn't mean at the 10th year both of them are going to do equally well. And one fine day दोनों का starburst होएगा bank balance में. नहीं होएगा. Right.
Agreed.
So
example is Sachin Tendulkar and Vinod Kambli.
I won't take names, but I'm just essentially saying that we also know that. The reason why I'm saying this is, I think working hard is hygiene. किसी का number लग गया without working hard is a different issue. They're not in the bell curve.
Like Arundhati Roy.
उसमें नहीं जाते. Right? They're not use cases which can inspire me or tell me something which I can act upon or emulate in my own life.
Right.
There's no learning there. I'm sorry, I can't act on it. I want something that I can say, हाँ मैं भी कर सकता, मैं करेगा. इधर मैं पैसा लगाएगा. मतलब पैसा being symbolic of any effort that I'm going to put.
Right.
Time भी दिया तो वो भी. Right? That's one. So hard work is hygiene. What he spoke about, कि 10 साल लगाना है, that to me is grit. 10 साल तक to get up and do the same thing over and over, very boring, very frustrating. It tests your mettle. कि तू बना किससे है? Can you do the same thing over and over again, knowing fairly well कि 10 साल में कोई लॉटरी नहीं लगने वाला है. It is just a belief कि 10वां साल में तुम्हारा पत्ता खुलेगा. बैंक बैलेंस में टिंग सा आवाज बेटर आएगा. अभी खाली दिखता है. Whatever. But that's a belief. Belief in yourself, in the process, having faith in yourself. That, according to me, is also philosophy and hygiene. A quantified number of hard work, right? Like, I also, apart from Tipping Point, I also speak about this movie, Jiro Dreams of Sushi, Japanese movie. Jiro is the best sushi maker in Japan. And uske 4 bete hain. They're still his interns. He, for the past 65 years, has done the same thing every day without a day's vacation. Now, talking about rigor and discipline and showing up every day. 4 baje wahi market jata hai, he chooses the right fish. If he doesn't get the fish, he will not make that dish.
Correct.
Right? And 65 years he's aged, he's become better. The best in the world go and queue up for 3 months before they find a seat at his table.
Correct.
It basically puts a thappa on what he is saying. We are talking about, apart from this, things that we can't control as well. किस्मत छोड़ दे, कुछ नहीं कर सकता. है तो है, नहीं तो नहीं है. You can't tweak that around. It's with the man above or whoever you believe in. Apart from these 3 aspects, right? Hygiene, 2 hygiene aspects, 1 component of luck. Is there something in the current context of things that could have been, or that you feel, if you had known earlier, you could have maneuvered faster? More than maneuvering, I would use the term navigating. See, I think all of us end up maneuvering. There is no road, you make a road. That is what your generation did. You guys made roads when there weren't any. The next generation had pathways.
Yeah.
Right? And thus there were multiple ways to go. How does a person move from maneuvering to navigating? Navigating is having a goalpost and being able to find your way. There's a lighthouse there.
Yeah.
Right? So since you guys made pathways, I would like to look at a lighthouse because koi karke gaya. I'm not the first person doing it. How do I get there? And what would be your suggestion to that? Ki bhai ye sab padh le. Well, for example, you mentioned a few things like learn your finances, trust only your own thing when it comes to accounting. Because everybody is going to, if you don't, a miss is a mistake. And you pay for it.
You pay for it.
That's exactly what your example is.
Exactly.
98 lakhs is not funny.
Yeah.
I will have to shut down shop and sign up for it. I can't compensate. In which case, that's one aspect of thing. Let's say today when a creative person gets into entrepreneurship, what are the things that you would say that bhai ye sab saath mein seekh le, maine bahut mehnat karke seekha hai and I've picked it up as I've gone. What are the things that you would recommend to shorten their journey of struggle?
So let's put it this way. Imagine a second scenario. Say Tesseract. I'm just taking it as an
hypothetical example.
That or even Quetzel. Or maybe I should talk Quetzel more.
Sure.
There were two of us. Both creative people. If I was smart, I would be the creative person. I'd take on somebody from a management background. And say, listen, you have skin in the game. If you lose as well. Let's do this. You handle that part of it. Keeping, the discipline and the hygiene in place. I'll ensure what we give to the world is something that nobody else is doing. So that's my core strength. Your core strength is this. One is when you have more creative people, like for example in Tesseract, there were 4 of us. If you're all working towards the same goal, you can achieve anything you want. But if you're pulling in all 4 different directions, you will not achieve anything that you want. So as long as all of us are working towards the same goal, we achieved. But nobody was a financial whiz. But then the stakes were not so high. In Quetzel, the stakes were way higher. So I would say that would have been my mistake.
So if I make it a single line summary, you are saying that look at people you collaborate with as somebody who will compensate for the things that is not your core strength.
Absolutely.
That is a smarter thing to do and will shorten your struggle and process of these mishaps or whatever. There is trust involved there as well.
Very much.
But trust is involved everywhere.
Everywhere. Anything you do is you have to have
so
trust.
So do a compensatory thing. That will reduce your journey.
Yeah.
To
that is one.
Yeah.
That's one.
And I think also what Sir said earlier, constant evolution is also important.
I'm getting to that. Actually, why don't you bring that point forward? Because he's spoken about it earlier as well, that there is no staticness when you're a creative person. You're constantly evolving.
So
please go ahead.
Before that,
one
quick thing. I went out of Tesseract and I started Kiri. Second year of Kiri, I met somebody, very, very interesting guy. Okay, Nadkarni. He was, I think, ICICI Ventures. He was heading it. And he was absolutely enamored with the idea of what we wanted to start. So he said, listen, I'll get you somebody who'll do funding. Draper, Mr. Bill Draper of Draper International, one of the first venture funding companies in the world from the US. I had a bombed out workplace, like there was nothing. Bill Draper came all the way from US. He flew down. He came and he met us. Where? Outside that bombed out place, under the tree, we spread out a nice table. We organized some things to sit and eat and talk. And Bill Draper heard my story and what the vision was. And he said, all right, I'll fund you guys. He committed to $1 million. And I'm talking about 1997. Okay? 1997, he came, he went back. He says, I go back to the US, I'll send you a term sheet. We'll sign and then you have the
But this is the Pokhran story. Everything blew up with Pokhran.
Yes. So we did our nuclear test in May.
Yeah.
And that's
collateral damage.
Ho gaya, abhi main kya karu? That is fate.
That is fate. That you can't control.
There is nothing I can do. But imagine if that funding had come in. Today, we could have had one of the biggest furniture brands in the country. But it was not meant to be happening that way. There was more learning for me to do as per the universe. And only then head in the direction. Or maybe that was not my direction. So today, for example, we are working on green environments. That's the next big thing.
Hmm.
How many people are working on this? Not too many.
Hmm.
So though when you are ahead of your time, you end up not making money until you have people who can actually bring in the support for that and help you build it. And we came in at a time when venture capital didn't exist. Okay. So today I feel we are more or less in the right place at the right time. So if I talk about doing buildings, green buildings using timber and bamboo and whatever other things which are there is a lot of scope. So we are not 20 years ahead. We maybe are 5 years ahead, which is good.
Sandy, I'm just trying to quantify this as a learning for anybody who takes away that one sentence and embeds it in their life, right? And that being the fact that you may not be able to control fate. That's not up to you.
Yeah.
Or you might also spin it around like the way you did, saying that, hey, let the universe decide certain aspects. If it did not happen and everything blew up in smoke, I had a learning journey to undergo, which is what it was preparing me for. That's a good way of looking at things that did not happen and I can't control. The other thing that, will it be okay for me to say that having a vision which is future projected, but with a little nuance of, let's say, 5 to 10 years as a window, is a good place to look at than saying I'm doing something without a vision and at some point of time, I might also become Van Gogh.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's exactly what you're saying, right? That in constant pursuit of something great is great, but it would be nice to have a futuristic goal where you are at least primed up to be at the right place at the right time in the near future.
Yeah. So just as an example, like say you heard of the Sony Walkman.
Yeah.
That it was a game changer.
Yeah.
All right. Why was Sony such a revered company? Because they would come out with products which nobody had ever thought of. It was ahead of its time. But Sony being Sony made full use of it and made money. Okay. They had the financial backing. They had the marketing backing. Now, that's another big thing. Most creative people are terrible at marketing. Most. I'm not saying all. So, how do you build up that story which people see as, wow, I want this? You build by marketing, whichever way you want to market. I'm not talking about hardcore marketing, but you could build it up in various ways. Third-party credibility, whatever else that you want to do. Put in a little story here, put in a little story there. But most creative people are not good at that. Today is much better because you have social media, which was not there before, and social media can influence people's thinking to a great extent. You see something interesting, hey, this is interesting, let me look at it. And they say, I like it. And then you get in touch. And then you talk to another 5 guys. You send it to a few more people. People look at it. So that should be used. So now with this new thing that we are doing, we are going to make full use of it. So I'm engaging a few people to help me on the social media front to talk.
So it's interesting that you are a senior. It's not that you haven't had good times. It's not that you haven't had learnings.
Yeah.
Both have happened. And you're still saying that, hey, I'm still figuring this out. And a few things are figured out.
Yeah.
And rest I'm figuring it out. And whatever I figure out, I'm putting them in action.
Yeah.
Ye maine seekha, ye main karega bhi.
Correct.
And that also kind of signs up with what he was talking about, because Rajesh, this is the component that you were talking about, if you ask me, that there's constant evolution. There's no staticness. And learning becomes a part of the journey. You can almost call it synonymous to the journey.
That also requires an attitude like his, that never say that this is enough. You're always constantly evolving. The moment you get to a point that, okay, I've done enough and I've learned enough, then the evolution doesn't really go through. So actually, most of my questions are coming in from the video that I saw of yours, which was available on YouTube, where you spoke about your journey through from Tesseract to Quetzel and then Total Environment. From the last couple of years, maybe over 8-9 years now that I know you of, not exactly from a competition to what I'm doing, but because you had already gone to another level when we were growing up. But general perception was that Quetzel collaborated with Total Environment. And over the last 10 years, I really haven't heard of Quetzel, but always heard of you being somebody who's involved with Total Environment. What was the journey like? And was it Quetzel's identity or was it Total Environment's identity? And what was the need to evolve from a service, which Quetzel was giving as a service because you were making anything and everything. It was a product at the end of the day, but it was a service to the product. It wasn't a product like a chair or a table or something which is designed and made the way it is and selling the product. So, but you evolved over time from service to a product. So, what was the need to do that? Is that a natural transition, like from consultation to manufacturing service, from there to a product, and then move on that thing? And what was the identity of Quetzel when you had collaborated with Total
Yeah.
Environment?
So, see, service is one thing, and in Quetzel we had service as well as product. Okay, we had developed a lot of different elements of furniture, and we're not trying to sell it just as furniture. We wanted to sell it as a lifestyle or a thought process. Let's put it that way. And let's put it this way, that we talked with Total Environment, or rather, they are also pretty keen at that time because they were their projects were getting larger, and they wanted to mechanize stuff and get good quality, and that expertise was available with us because 20 years of manufacturing has given me a lot of insights into manufacturing and how to get something and how to do it and how to do it at the right quality. I can tell you exactly which machine to use for what kind of an operation. So we tied up with them, keeping in mind that it will help us put our brand out there. Apart from doing work for them and helping them with mechanizing, improving quality, fit, finish, and doing it faster. So as far as the brand is concerned, we were already out there in 2005. We were selling at Home Stop. And we tied up with them. We were selling through 6 different cities.
remember the dining collection as well, the one with the stone in between.
Yeah.
I was hoping that I'll see that here, but I didn't.
No. You'll have all kinds of odd prototypes here. Okay. So anyway, now we were in 2005 selling through Home Stop. But you see, retail is a whole different ballgame. Yes, I mean, we were not doing bad, but making sure, see, the thing is with retail, if you want to do, you have to make sure that the product is already available in your warehouse. And when somebody orders it, you deliver it. You can't take the order, make it in your factory and deliver it. It will never reach on time. So though some products we had stocks, some products we didn't. So we were finding it difficult because somebody will order one in Delhi, 2 in Mumbai, 1 in Surat. It becomes difficult. So we needed funds so that we could build a certain amount of inventory. We knew which was selling and what was not selling because we were already in the business for a few years. So that was one of the reasons of tying up, so that they would put in some money and we would be able to do this. So unfortunately, we couldn't do it because the money went into, that's what I was saying, that we needed someone who's, maybe when you got the money, somebody else would have looked at, today I can look at it very differently. I would say that when somebody puts in, I'd put a certain amount in an FD and tell the bank, give me a working capital limit. Okay. So that money is still with you and you have the working capital limit. So these are things which only a guy with finance mind can help. At that time, we didn't have great guys. The guy we had actually was nicely siphoning money. So he was very happy, but finally we discovered that pretty fast, so we had to ask him to go. Then we got completely occupied doing work for Total Environment. Because we had an agreement with them for the next 5 years, we will not do other stuff. Otherwise, it would affect our deliverables to them. And they had projects, large projects, not as large as what they promised us, but it was work. And those were the early days of Total Environment. Today, they're much better established. And so funds wouldn't come in on time. So you suffered. And after some time, when you suffer like that, you lose interest. So that was one of the reasons why we said, okay, enough. And we suffered losses. Okay. So at that time, I can say we went bankrupt because there was not money coming in on time. We had debts to pay, suppliers, this, that, everything. So we had to close it. And that was the best way out. Otherwise, I would still be suffering with it.
Which year was this approximately?
2018. And you know what? It taught me a lot. Taught me a huge amount. Everybody doesn't go through this. So 2018, it went into NCLT. You know what is NCLT, right? You know what is IBC? Indian Bankruptcy Code. NCLT is National Company Law Tribunal.
Okay.
So it went in there. 2020, we were closed.
So basically, from a layman point of view, the government had a case against you.
Not the government. We had to get it closed.
No, getting it closed is all right, but with dues already being there, you won't be able to service your dues.
Yeah. It's like the Chapter 11 of the US Bankruptcy Code. Same. See, what it basically says, till 2018, the bankruptcy laws in India were archaic. Must have been set up during British times, where if you go bankrupt, now business is a business. There is a risk in any business that you do. It's not a job where you're going to get your salary at the end of the month, whether you work or you don't. Business is business. There are risks in any business. Our old bankruptcy laws, if you went bankrupt for whatever, it might be just that you couldn't pay back a 1 lakh debt and you're bankrupt, your life is gone. You can't set up anything new. The bank will not give you any money. Hundreds of issues. With the new bankruptcy law, it very clearly stated, somebody's gone bankrupt, study whether there is fraud, whether there's a genuine reason, and in 6 months, you close it. And that person can restart again, come back and restart another business, which is good. So that's how we said, okay, this is got to happen. So that is how we got out of Quetzel, since we were declared bankrupt. And then I started Quercus. And Quercus I started in, just when I know that it went into NCLT, I started Quercus. So I have to do something. And it grew. It's grown today. It's going to grow bigger.
Nice.
I have no regrets. That was meant to happen. It had to happen. It was for our better. I mean, one of our suppliers filed in the bankruptcy thing against us. We couldn't really say, no, we'll pay everybody back. If you could, we would have done it. We couldn't. So we said, okay, sorry, can't get the money. So close it. But the learning is not closed, no?
Yeah.
Whatever we did there, everything is with me. So that's what we are doing now. And scaling it up. I've always loved working with spaces. Just that I didn't have science. And to get into architecture, you need science, right? So I didn't have that. So the interesting story is when I went to NID, in their prospectus, they had something called experimental architecture, which was basically, I think, Fry Auto was supposed to conduct that with NID. Fry Auto had been to NID.
Yeah.
So experimental architecture, I went and at the interview, they said, what do you want to do if we take you in? So I said, experimental architecture. So they said, we don't have that course. I said, your prospectus says. No, that course is not there. What is your next option? I said, furniture design. So let's put it in an interesting way. I mean, actually, by working with furniture at that micro level and also macro, because furniture is in space, expanding that same thinking into building using the same material, which is wood, but with a different technology. It's quite interesting. I'm enjoying it.
You worked with one version of Fryoto, Mr. Arun Swaminathan.
He's a friend.
Yeah.
He's a friend of mine.
He was part of, I don't know how he was involved with Tesseract and all, but he keeps talking about you because he was my professor in college.
Okay.
So,
yeah. He was involved with Tesseract. He used to come. He had a special ability, which was he would make a complete drawing in a stamp size drawing. Okay, this much. We used to laugh at him, and we used to, of course, he's a good friend. He has a good mind. And he took to academics because I think he's better suited for that. He's an interesting character.
So we did I think our second episode was with him in audio.
Okay.
So because when we started, it was easier to go to people whom we know. So Deepak Puri was the first episode.
Deepak Puri, I know Deepak very well.
Across.
Yeah, I know Deepak.
And because I interned with him.
I see.
I interned with him, and Dad also knows him from very long time, and he's a good friend.
Deepak is a good friend.
We did Arun Swaminathan, and then it was Shailen Parker, the Bashubs. So we started like that, but we're now getting good responses, so it's good. So one of the things I wanted to ask you is, from a designer to a manufacturer, and the knowledge from the design perspective to materials to machines, there's a whole wide knowledge that one needs to know. And limitation of any one affects the design output. What's your take on that, and how did you learn all of this? Was it on the job? Was it through interest? You went and spoke to people? Basically, what's your take on knowing materials and machines for the end product?
Yeah, so in NID, during our education, we had workshops. So you wouldn't be able to design in isolation in an ivory tower. you need to know how to get your product made as well. And that's very important, especially for a furniture design student. Product design didn't have that much of, you couldn't go and do a casting if you needed to do a casting in the workshop. But I could go down and use steel or wood, whatever I wanted, and I make a prototype 1:1, which helps you build your understanding of scale, understanding of sensibilities, of ergonomics, everything. I'm very lucky that I was there at that time where we could go pick up whatever piece of wood and use it, or whatever piece of metal. I didn't have to pay for it. The NID paid for it. So I worked with various different timbers. So white ash, rosewood, teak, pine, all different ones. And each one behaves differently. So that was my first learning. So in the workshop, I spent a lot of time. I even made a nice bass guitar in the
Workshop.
Yeah. Avoiding MP Ranjan's classes of geometrical construction. Okay. I had made, then the day of reckoning came and he said, show me your drawings. I had done 3 drawings and they were very dirty. I was not interested. I was making the guitar, So Ranjan looked at me and said, I know what you're doing. You're making a guitar in the workshop in my class. We will not take you into furniture design. This was during foundation. I said, oh shit, that's going to be bad. I can't think of doing anything else. I don't want to do product design. I don't want to do graphic design. I don't want to do exhibition design. I want to do furniture. So I told him, give me 2 days. 2 days, I finished 20 drawings perfectly done without any muck on the sheet. I went and said, Ranjan, here. He said, you did it or you've done it before and you're bullshitting me? I said, no, I did it in the last 2 days. He looked at every drawing, he couldn't find a fault. And that became legend. So when I joined furniture, Neelam Iyer, who used to take, fantastic lady, who used to take our drawing classes, how to do a perfect drawing. So she came to the class the first day and she was asking everybody's name. So I said, I'm Sandeep Mukherjee. Oh, so you are the guy that was making the guitar and then made the drawings. So, it was, they knew about me before I reached.
Yeah.
So anyway, it was interesting. When I was in the workshop, I used to try and understand what each machine is doing and why use this machine instead of that machine. So that was always there with me. So when I left Quercuspace and Tesseract and I started Quetzel, the idea was to make my own furniture. And I said, I know which machines to buy. There was a little bit of bluster, of course, because there are other people who know better than you. But one of the main reasons of starting the manufacturing was because nobody else had a factory to do things I wanted. I can't go back to Studio Line or any of them to make my furniture because I was not interested. Why should I go there when I've left? So at that point, I met somebody very interesting. I think you all may have heard of him if you're in woodworking. His name was Ramu.
RMPL.
I met Ramu. I had long talks with him. He was an interesting guy. Okay.
I met Ramu at Dovetail as well.
And Ramu over time became a very good friend. Okay. So Ramu at that time couldn't spend much time with me. He says, okay, you get in touch with this guy and you can pick up whatever machines. So I went and said, I want these machines. They said, okay, we'll give you. But there was nobody guiding you saying, listen, this machine you don't need. That machine you don't need. What do you want to produce? We'll plan the line for you. Nobody was there doing that. They were selling machines. I bought. First batch of machines came, then a second batch of machines came, which were much more interesting and expensive. After working 2 years with this, we had a large project and where I needed a CNC router, a big one, big capacity, and a beam saw. And these are various machines that you need. I called up Ramu and said, Ramu, I need to get these things made. Which factory has these machines? I want to
go and see
and get it done there. He said, wait, I'll call you back. He called me back the next day and said, why do you want to go and make somewhere else? Why don't you have your own machines? I said, no, I don't have the money to spend. I can't spend another 5 crores buying 2-3 machines, which I need just for this project. He said, don't worry, I'll send you the machines. You pay when you can. Who will do that? So for me, Ramu was very important in my life. You won't believe it. A week later, 5 trucks loaded with machines came to my factory. I had not even signed an agreement. The CNC router was set up, beam saw was set up, the multiple boring machine was set up, the edge banding machine was set up, and the biggest edge banding machine with like 6 stations. And the biggest CNC machine at that time anywhere in the country apart from Godrej. Godrej had that machine and I had that machine, all of India.
This was 2012.
Yeah,
Around that time.
Around that time.
This whole thing of right machine for the right purpose, even today, nobody is able to give because everybody is just trying to sell machines because we face that problem. Unless we really don't understand our process. And we end up buying the wrong machine because we fall for for what the machine can do on the paper. But when it comes to reality in practical terms, when we are using the machine, like for me, even today, in the setup that I have, in my head, I know a CNC 5-axis router is a useless machine for me because it's a very precision-oriented job that it does. It can do multiple jobs at a single station, but when it comes to mass production, I am wasting my time.
It is slower.
It is much slower. I cannot depend on that to pull out numbers in a limited time. I can depend on that machine to pull out precision and accurate product, but at a much higher cost and time. But in mass production, it doesn't work out. But the manufacturer will never tell us.
No, they won't tell you.
They only give us the good side of every machine, and we fall for that, and then we end up spending that machine, and then we learn through learn from the wrong side. So, but that was great. So you have traveled the world. You have seen the transition from a consultation to manufacturing to product to now in a similar industry, but a very different product, which is glue lamp. How, according to you, has globalization changed design in Indian context, and whether it is really relevant today or not?
Yeah. You can't just pick up something from some part of the world, bring it here and say, this is great for you. Simple example I'll take is the kitchen industry. Okay. You have heard of Veneta Cucine.
Yep.
I mean, he's done a great job in terms of business. Okay. But do Indians cook the same way as a German will do or a French will do? No. So therefore, do the same materials work for our environment? It doesn't. So most of these guys, exactly the principle is the same as selling a machine. CNC router, kharid le, sab theek ho jayega. This kitchen you buy, see how exciting it is. It's not selling a product for the real functionality, usage and aesthetics combined. It is selling a product to pump your ego. When somebody comes to your house, you just say, this is my kitchen. Arey wah, kya kitchen banaya. Started with that. Now, you can't pick up something from somewhere, bring it here, because we Indians are very different. First and foremost, the basic premise, we are not minimalists. A lot of architects do minimalist design. It's very cold, it's very dead. We are warm-blooded people like the Mediterranean. We like embellishment. So how do you bring about something like that? Like for my own use, I might use a simple table because I don't need that embellishment because my mind thinks differently. But when I'm designing for clients, how do I do something where, one, I am able to make a product for perfect usage, functionality. I'm able to make that for Indian ergonomics. Okay. I'm able to make it so that it has minimum maintenance. We are terrible at maintaining. Okay. And making it so that it lasts long enough. Okay. Today you don't need something to last 25 years. But I have clients who bought 25 years ago and they still have it. They will not move it out. They say, I cannot sell it. I will not get anything like that anywhere else. That's a different story. But today, if it lasts 5 years, it's good. But at which level? Guys, as they rise up, let's look at the pyramid. When you're just starting off, which IKEA targets, but in India, IKEA is expensive. It's not cheap enough. There are people who will do things much cheaper. When you're starting off, you don't want to spend too much money because you don't have that much money. So you buy something cheap, which fits your sensibilities, not perfectly, but you are happy that it's not bad. You buy it, you use it. 5 years down the road, you, your wife, both are working, both are making more money. अरे इसको फेंकते हैं, कुछ अच्छा लेते हैं. And you keep climbing up the ladder. As you climb up the ladder, the pyramid goes this way. At the top, people can buy from anywhere in the world. That's not your target. Because they want to showcase, I bought this from Italy, I bought this from Germany, I bought it from wherever else, and it doesn't work. But the middle class, which is constantly, more people are getting added, They have aspirations of reaching the next level. They want to buy something good, but they will not throw it away in 5 years. So you give them a product that will last longer, and it's not a fad. It suits the Indian mindset of usage. It will stay. And if it stays, the longer it stays, more people see it. So you will buy a Maruti 800. After a few years, you'll afford a better car. Maruti 800 is gone. When you buy a BMW or a Merc, the entry level, you'll keep it with you for a while. And if you are happy with it, it'll last for a long time, because Ment is engineered for lasting longer. It's also comfortable to drive. It is safe. And then from there, maybe you want to upgrade further. You'll go for a Land Rover or maybe an Alfa Romeo or any one of these vehicles. So the higher you climb, when you go to the top, those vehicles are not meant for obsolescence. They're meant to be together with you for a long time, because you have all the attributes in it which you need. Now, same with furniture. Same with a house. Somebody will buy a 2-bedroom house initially. After some time, see, the thing is, the value of that always is rising. So when you sell, you're not making a loss. You add a little bit more and you take a bigger place. First you start when you're alone, you're living in a PG. Then you live in a house with 2-3 other people. And then you decide that I'll rent a place of my own. I have now money to rent a place of my own. Or I might just get a studio apartment. Then you get married. Then you need a little more space, because your in-laws will come, your parents will come. They need a place to stay. They can't sleep in the hall. So you buy a 2-bedroom apartment. And then you have a kid. Then you want the kid also to have his or her own room. Then you need a 3-bedroom place. And then you have your parents who are already there. Then you have your kid, you, and then some guest comes. You need a 4-bedroom place. So it's growing like that. But at some point in your life, all this is stabilized. You're not going to have 20 kids. You had 2 kids. They've grown. Their requirements are met. Now they're on their own, stepping out. They're going to work somewhere, and they may not want to live with you. They might want to go out. Then your need for growing it is not there. Now you start looking for quality. You don't look for quantity. So when you're looking for quality, you upgrade to a better quality product. That's where I would like to target myself. That I give you quality, I'll give you great design, which is functional, easy to maintain. Still, maintenance, you may have 2-3 people to work in your house, but still, those guys who come to work in your house come from a place where they don't understand what is it that you need. So you tell, ye karo, wo karo, ye karo, wo karo, or, itara marbeda, whatever it is. So you are trying to live a better quality of life. You then want to decide to take more holidays. You save your money for doing holidays. Or someone like me will say, okay, I'm going for the next 10 days, I'm going to Botswana. I'm going to do photography. So you buy camera equipment, and good quality camera equipment. You don't buy some entry-level camera, which you do when you're young. So this cycle is always going to be there. Those people will move further up. The next level will come up. So this is a constant churn. And that will never die. And India is at the right place from that point of view. We are in a great country. All the ills apart. We are in a great country. We are in the right place at the right time.
Right.
We are today Modi's India. I mean, there are things which are changing, whether you like the guy or not. There is a lot of change that has happened. Which means that our business will grow, our clients will grow, our customers will grow. And people are traveling today. It is no more looking at Egypt on a magazine. You are actually there. So people are also clued in on what's happening in the rest of the world. So mindset are also changing. You don't want that heavy Victorian piece of furniture. You like something little lighter, which goes with your mindset. But you don't want just a simple thin table with metal legs, because that's a little too minimal. I don't want it in my house. I'll have it in my office, but I don't want it in my house. And one thing I've learned, wood, everybody loves. The warmth of wood brings a different energy into a place. So if this roof was with a metal rafters and a puff sheet on top, it would look very different. It would feel very different. The energy of this place will be very different. It's got wood. Big difference. Right. Wood has energy. And in the end, any space feels good, works better, only because of the energy that is created there. And that's why architects are very important. You create the right energy. And to be honest, like you walk into a timber building, the whole feeling is completely different. So I feel I'm contributing to better energy as well. I'm not saying everybody else is doing wrong. I'm just saying this is what I believe in and this is what I want to do.
You gave an insight on how it's important to design for Indian context for the Indian people. But with more and more people traveling, more and more people getting exposure to what's happening across the world, and more international brands coming in India, the need, like you said, IKEA is actually not cheap here, though it's a very low, in a foreign country, it's considered at a very starting entry level furniture. But here it's more like a desire that I have an IKEA piece with me. So the sensibilities change completely here. So how important, or what is your advice to designers, more so for furniture designers, because that's more specific to your core expertise. So furniture designers, should they focus on Indian consumer at an Indian sensibility level, or how should they design for India? Should they design for India for the aspirational level, or should they design for India for the practical level?
How much money do you have? You want to design for the practical level, you have to have a lot of money because you need to do volume, bring your cost down, you give style at a price. That's a practical level. Okay? You'll have a big market, you'll have a very thin margins, and you make one mistake, it's gone. But that is one huge area. If you can actually break that, you're into building billions of dollars of business. Okay? Which is what your Urban Ladder and Pepperfry tried, but they are stuck at a point because they can't go beyond that. They don't have a concept. They're just aggregators trying to sell. They fulfilled a certain requirement because at that time, furniture, you had to go to a carpenter or a small shop or whatever else. There was no pan-India brand selling anywhere, which would give you what you need in any part of the country. So for them, this made sense. So initially when Urban Ladder and all started, they started with products worth 3,000, 5,000, which people don't mind spending. ठीक है. Oh, if the product is not good, मेरा खाली 5,000 रुपया गया. I've just lost $5,000, so it doesn't make a difference. But today, people are buying jewelry online, spending that kind of money. People are buying bigger things. You buy a fridge online, you're paying 1,20,000 on it. People are willing to change. So what Urban Ladder and Pepperfry achieved was that change people's mindsets to buying online. Today, the online market is huge. But if I tell you the offline market is 100 times bigger. Because today, furniture, again, people still want to touch, feel, sit, and then only buy. So if you're buying a big ticket item, you will not buy it online. But smaller ticket items, you buy online. So that, it churns your money to the extent that your overheads are taken care of. I make a small product which sells very well. I make it compact, so I lock it in a box, send it. I'm not stuck to somebody wanting to install it because it should be very easy to put together. Today, installation facilities are available. I mean, companies will do installation for you. When we were doing Quetzel, we had to send our team anywhere in the country to send for installation. So you're trying to do too many things. So ecosystem was not ready. Today, the ecosystem is ready. Now, you're saying, should I design for practical or should I design for aspirational? I will always design for the aspirational because my products are not going to be cheap because I'm not going to cut quality. I'm not going to compromise. My design is done in a manner that people can get value from it. I'll design for value. I'll not design for selling it cheap. I can design for selling it cheap, but I don't want to do that business myself. Somebody is ready to do that business. I have products which you can put together very quickly, like a bed you can put together in 4.5 minutes. Tell me which other manufacturer is setting up beds that can be put up in 4.5 minutes, maybe excepting IKEA. But the products that we've done and made and worked out and sold, you don't have breakages. IKEA products break because they will tell you this bed can take a maximum load capacity of 110 kilos.
It's optimized for that.
It is optimized for that. That's why the cost. Whereas here, let's say you have a get-together. Where do the guys hang out?
The guys are at the bar or the balcony?
At the bar, or smoking outside, or sitting around the dining table drinking and talking. Where are the women?
In the bedroom.
In the bedroom, sitting on one bed with the kids, 10 of them. And the kids are jumping on them.
I've had that issue in a recent project. All 3 beds collapsed.
So I'm telling you. So when you say design for Indian requirement, this is what you have to focus on. The look it depends on what your sense of aesthetics are. So I cannot guide you on that. But what I can say is that you have to design for Indian usage. Exactly the same that I was talking about the kitchens. Grease, grime, how do you clean it? Constant heat. Kitchen is always working in India. It's not that you just go before lunch, you quickly, bake a few things and you start eating. That's not the way it works here.
The average house is cooking happening twice.
Yeah.
It's two operational cycles.
Yes, exactly. So the same way, this bed example, I have never had even one bed collapse because we said, look, this is going to happen. You do your study, understand this is what happens. That's the way things work. Kid will be jumping. So when you put slats, bed slats, 100% they'll break.
That's what happened. All three beds had slats. 6 people, 7 people sat on it at the opening, and all of them just collapsed.
Correct. It'll happen. There is another problem. Let us say you don't put bed slats and you put a plywood sheet, but you can't just put a plywood sheet. It has to be coated. Otherwise, it will start getting fungus. Now, how many times do they pick up the mattress and air it? How many times do you do it?
Very, very,
very rare. So it collects moisture and humidity over there. So it needs to breathe, which means when you do the plywood sheet, you have to drill multiple holes in it so that it is breathing. Or,
that's a new thing I learned.
I'll tell you. Or, no, also, see, when you want to lift the plywood out, those holes work easier for you to lift it. Otherwise, you have to go from below, push it, all of that. So that is avoided. Second, you can use slats. Change the specs. Overseas, it will be 8 mm, maximum 10 mm.
Yeah.
I use 22 mm. And not thin ones. I use broader ones. It works.
What if you make the slats vertical?
You can make the slats vertical, but it will take up more space, no? Like, you're talking basically like a beam.
Yeah.
Okay. Imagine these as pre-stressed slabs because they are slightly curved. They're molded.
Yeah.
So it takes a little bit of this thing. Now, problem is when the load capacity becomes less than the load on top, he'll tend to fail in the center.
Right.
Okay. So increase the thickness. Cost will be a little bit more, but you will not have the problem.
Tell me something. Since we were talking about a detail and it got my fancy. Shock absorber of a truck. It works on a similar principle.
Same.
Right? It's bigger beams, chotu.
Correct.
So depending on the load or the jerk that happens, the weight distribution happens. So couldn't the same thing function in the case of a bed as well? Use the slats, but differential size, which means you're pulling out the same section of slats. Your manufacturing cycle is the same, just cutting it to different sizes. As and how the load bearing increases, you're just pushing it down.
But
you're increasing cost by having multiple by having multiple slats.
Thickness पे भी तो cost बढ़ रहा है मेरा.
उतना नहीं बढ़ेगा ना.
That's marginal.
So
also the purpose is different. In that, in the shock absorber, what happens is when it's coming chota, it comes exactly in the center. So your breakage, the breakage point is taken care of.
You're right. Breakage point is taken care of, but also it's engagement.
And here it's reverse.
As a load.
It's also to take the shock. In this case, it's to take the load.
So we have to look at a variety of aspects. One is strength and functionality, and second also is cost.
Of course.
Yeah. So whereas that same principle can be applied onto a recurved bow works the same way.
Right.
Where you are gripping it, thicker, thinner. The principle is the same.
Right.
In a recurved bow. That's why recurved bows are way more efficient than the typical longbow of the British. And we've used recurved bows from Ramayana and Mahabharata times.
Right. And there are multiple
engineers.
Yeah.
My last question for now, but there's lots more that I can definitely ask you. But for now, the last question is, you did your NID, a design course in NID as furniture designer, went out, did design consultancy, then did manufacturing, all of that. In today's time, there are people who have absolutely no clue what furniture is, but they get into furniture manufacturing.
Yeah.
Because it's going to get them a return. What is the general path? Because there are 2-3 types of people who get into furniture manufacturing. One is like you, who's done a furniture design course and then gotten into it and then evolved into multiple spaces, not just one type of furniture, but everything in the furniture. There are a few who have done furniture design and then stuck to focused on a few categories like maybe seating spaces seating products or sleeping products or study products, where they do only that. And then there are people like us. I'm an architect, but my dad started this. He was a carpenter helper. He grew from there. He got into manufacturing. And because he comes from the technical background, that's another thing. But today there are people who come with zero knowledge on furniture, but get into it because they have the money. Plus China plus one concept that is coming up. Everybody wants to invest in furniture manufacturing units. The units are becoming bigger and bigger. Skill is becoming lesser. It's becoming as good as extinct, if you
Agreed.
ask me.
I agree completely.
But the market requirement is that, okay, I have 20 crores, I'm willing to put, and 10 crores is a decent amount of money to put in. It's a huge amount of money, but it's still a decent amount of money to set up a class furniture manufacturing unit. Good enough to take out good products. But if the knowledge is not there, it's only for the business. How does one sustain, and what's your take on that as seasoned entrepreneur from design side as well as manufacturing side, specific to furniture? What's your take on this?
Yeah, it's very interesting, and I would say it'll take me a little bit of time to explain it, okay? So, you've seen since you come from a background like that, you've seen the market of furniture makers, let us say. Tell me, what is your take on the proportion of makers using prelam board and particle board and MDF and people using solid wood?
What is the proportion?
What is the proportion? How many of these compared to how many of those?
Very less.
Yeah.
Very, very less.
So why do people get into manufacturing furniture using panels? Is easy. Is much simpler in terms of working with, and it doesn't kick you on your ass.
And on software does the job to begin with.
So you can make tabletops, you can make cabinets.
Yes.
There is always going to be a requirement for that. So you keep making and you keep selling. When you want to do something with solid wood, it's a whole different ballgame. You have to have knowledge of wood. You have to know which wood to use for what purpose. Okay, I have seen people making door frames with beech. It comes in contact with water. Beech is not the right wood. It will expand.
The whole thing just...
So you have to know which wood to use for what purpose. And that knowledge only comes from years and years of actually working with it. Years and years of going down to sawmills in remote places in some part of the world, understanding how that wood works and knowing where to get it at the right price. Okay? Because wood in our country has been a product that you buy where you're 100% going to get cheated. Okay? The guy will tell you, sir, this is cheap. I mean, this is teak. He'll say
half of them don't have the knowledge.
No, nobody has knowledge. Nobody knows also.
Yeah.
Sir, ye teak hai, please buy this. It's not teak, it's Afromosia.
Yeah.
It looks exactly like teak.
Yes.
It's the same weight, density, everything is like teak. Only thing is it doesn't smell like teak and not too many people know.
And purpose is also different.
Purpose is different. But Afromosia comes in at 2,800, 2,300 for good grade of log, these big logs. Teak, you want good teak, it will cost you $8,000 minimum.
Minimum goes up to 14.
Yeah, it goes up 14, 18. I mean, we use a lot of teak for total environments. We used to, 40,000 cubic feet of wood we used to import here. So, first learn which wood is good for what. Second, teak, is it coming from a sustainable source? If you're buying it from Burma, it's not a sustainable source. They're just cutting down their forests and selling teak. Of course, now they have clamped down on it. Just from the point of view that you can't sell logs. You have to sell a value-added product, so their economy benefits. Then the log just coming to India and we cutting it, seasoning it and using it. Okay. Second, you can't pick up wood from the sawmill and say, I'll use it. You go to a carpenter, it says, sir, this log was there for 5 years, it's lying outside, it is seasoned. Bullshit.
Yeah.
You have to cut it into slabs, season it in a kiln, then only use it, whatever wood it is, even teak. Because only then you will get your fit, you will get your finish, you will not get so much of movement. So people don't know all this. So if you're setting up a furniture manufacturing unit, you want to make money, you can set up a panel processing facility and then supply it to bigger guys who don't want to invest in that. They want to invest in the next level. But if you want to make great furniture and you want to do it out of wood, then the whole story is different. And wood is aspiration. Okay. Or if I want to set up making furniture with metal, then you have to understand metalworking processes and say, okay, I'll buy this. And investment into metalworking facility is much more than a woodworking facility. So how much money do you want to put in? It all depends on that and what you want to do. Now, if there are 100 panel processing facilities, in relation to that, there will be only 2 solid wood facilities. Where do I want to be? Do I want to be in the exclusive area where I don't have so much competition and I can do stuff which people will preserve and will want to own? Or do I want to be just another Tom, Dick and Harry selling a panel product where there's so much competition, for 2 rupees somebody will go to someone else? I don't want to be there. This is where I want.
That's
but that is my
take.
take. To make, That is my take. There are people who might want to do that because they say, okay, I know these companies, they want to buy panel products. I will sell to them. I have a relationship with them. Please do it. Please do it. It's much easier. It's much simpler to handle a panel processing facility than a solid wood facility. More processes are involved in a solid wood. In a panel processing is much less.
So would it be right to say that in today's context, generalizing furniture industry is not enough?
No.
Getting into a little more detail like panel processing, yes, anybody can do that. Solid wood requires a lot more technical knowledge and skill, which comes over time. And then there's metal furniture and all of that. So that's how we should look at it.
That's how you should look at it.
So anybody who's doing a second business, third business can get into panel processing because it's mostly computer driven. You put in a size, everything comes out, you feed it into a machine. Those things can be automated. Even if you don't have a good carpenter to tell you how it has to be made, things get done. But the going forward aspirational perspective that is there, and especially in the Indian context, not only in Indian context, I think this is something that is there across the world, that solid wood furniture is aspirational. Like for a lot of our consumers in India, Italian furniture is an aspiration because in most of the rich houses today we see an Italian kitchen and an Indian kitchen. One is for show, the other is for use.
Absolutely.
At the end of it, the Indian kitchen is what is getting utilized. Just because you have the money, you're willing to spend on that 1 crore, 80 lakh, 60 lakh, something on an Italian kitchen. But at the end of the day, you're going to go cook in that Indian kitchen.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
Just to summarize.
Yeah. And there's one more thing I'd like to add. Design and manufacturing are 2 completely different things. Now, design, you are client focused. You want to make sure that the client gets everything done. Suppose you're doing a space. But manufacturing makes sense if you're focused on manufacturing one product. That's when your manufacturing becomes efficient. So if you go overseas, you'll have people making only chairs. Or you have people making only beds. People making only storage. If you get into the cycle of making furniture for projects, you're dead.
That's what I'm going through right now. But
so
we'll discuss
I'll tell you,
that
it is like this. When you have too much work, you don't know how you'll deliver. And other time you're twiddling your thumbs and wondering how you'll pay your salary the next month.
Yes, true. Exactly what happens.
For that, what you have to do, you have to have a line of products that you can sell on a regular basis, which you can actually focus, push, marketing-wise, and grow it. So that will take care of your
bottom part.
And you make your money when you're at the crest.
So you have 2 waves going.
By the way, I have done a lot of consultancy helping people set up factories. Telling them these are the products. This should be your line. This should be the flow. No carrying stuff on your head. Minimize the number of people. Automate things. Automate means not by spending more money. Automate in a manner that each station has an in and out. And this moves to the next one, becomes the in for that. And you have another one which is out. And don't take people carrying things on your head because they'll damage it. And you are inefficient.
Absolutely.
So either you have conveyor systems or you have trolleys and reduce the number of people. More people you have, more trouble you will have. And that's one thing I've learned in Quetzel. We had 250 people employed. Out of the 250, today if I look back, I think 200 were useless. Waste. And we were paying money. We had a monthly bill of salary and overhead and all of 50 lakhs.
So thank you so much, sir. I think this was great talking to you. I got to know a lot. I got to learn a lot from you.
Thanks to him for sure. But I'm curious about him being a part of a journey that multiple people share. And nobody's story is similar. So to me, that's a very curious side of एक ही कहानी के इतने सारे पहलू हैं to pull that out, and if I can articulate that or help in that articulation. Personally, I'm hungry about multiple things that people who've been there in the field have already undergone. Can I, in any which case, not take shortcuts, but can I make a quicker learning?
Of course.
And from people who've gone through a certain path. And that's something that I'm always hungry about, greedy about. So that is a bit that I'm taking away. In fact, I am going to connect with you on this whole thing about you actually plucked a string in my heart when you said the kitchen is not designed for us. And we connected on that because the first thing I said was, yaar, my grandmother used to sit down and chulha mein khana banati thi, and my mother just stood up and started cooking. How does that work? I'm eating the same food. I have a take on it though, but that's so we are going to connect on that.
Yeah.
But overall, your experience on things, especially on these two aspects of design and entrepreneurship, and another cornerstone of manufacturing, because I think we share these three. Three of us share these three, right? Designer bhi hai hum log, entrepreneurs bhi hai, and we are manufacturing. And that is these three to juggle together is very tricky, and those were insightful to me. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And I'm hoping the audience gets juice out of it. What has been your experience, just to close it? Thank you so much, but what has been your experience of having this conversation with us?
See, for me, I'll tell you something. If there are more people getting into the same area, I would like them not to go through the same, tribulations, trials and tribulations, all right? Because there is that much learning. Like, see, when I said this about manufacturing and you said you're going through the same thing, I know a lot of people are going through it. You don't need to go through it. Because I can tell you, listen, do it this way. You will save this much unnecessary stress and heartburn and money. Do this because that's what I've learned. And if I can help somebody, why not? And that's why I said, like, I've done and I'm still doing consultancy with a few people who are setting up furniture industries. Telling them, don't do this, because the guy who wants to sell you machines comes with the sole purpose of selling machines. He doesn't understand manufacturing. He doesn't understand the intricacies of manufacturing and where you can lose money. Okay, you bought a 20 lakh machine, doesn't matter, it's only 20 lakhs, but that 20 lakhs is a waste because you invested in the wrong machine. That's money you could have used elsewhere.
Yeah.
So that's very, very important. And I like to help people. And it's not only just for money. You guys are welcome to come anytime, sit with me. We can sit over a drink and I can tell you more. I mean, in this space, there is only that much time that you can spend talking about things, but there is so much more.
Yeah. I know you've been inviting me for a while and we've tried to coordinate this and it has always fallen in the crack. But I'll make this happen.
Yeah.